A teenager orders a milkshake at a roadside Dairy Queen in the 70s. This was an integral part of American suburbia, where the establishment with its distinctive lip-shaped logo served as the main gathering place for local youth. Ivana Trump shakes hands with Crown Prince Fahd of Saudi Arabia at a White House reception in 1985. To her right is her husband, Donald Trump, and in the center is U.S. President Ronald Reagan. This shot captures a meeting of money, power, and politics. Actress Debbie Reynolds with her daughter Carrie Fisher in 1961. Long before Carrie would become Princess Leia and a science fiction icon, this was just a quiet family moment between two future Hollywood stars. Rashid Street in Baghdad, the 50s, filled with American Chevrolet and Ford cars. This colorized photograph showcases an era when Iraq was experiencing an economic boom and actively absorbing Western culture, long before the series of future upheavals. A Tucker Snowcat snowmobile dangles over an ice crevasse during the Trans-Antarctic Expedition of 1957. Despite this incident, the team successfully traveled 3,500 kilometers, crossing the icy continent by land for the first time in history. A young Ella Fitzgerald in 1945 before she would be called the First Lady of Jazz. It was during this period that she began to move away from swing and big bands to focus on a solo career that would earn her 13 Grammy Awards. Iranian veterinarians conduct a training seminar for peasants in the Loristan province, the 60s. This program was part of the Shah's White Revolution, aimed at modernizing the country and raising the level of education in rural areas. Elvis Presley and actress Deborah Paget on the set of his first film, Love Me Tender, in 1956. Despite the obvious on-screen chemistry, their relationship remained platonic, and Paget herself later left cinema to devote herself to religion. President John F. Kennedy and his wife Jacqueline watched the America's Cup sailing regatta from the deck of the destroyer Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. The ship was named after the president's older brother who died during a World War II. Actor Cesar Romero, in character as the Joker, signs autographs on the set of the Batman television series. Notably, he flatly refused to shave his signature mustache, so the makeup artist had to simply cover it with a thick layer of white paint. John Lennon and Yoko Ono on a street at night in 1971. This photograph was taken during a period when the couple was actively engaged in avant-garde art and political activism, which was also reflected in their provocative style of behavior. A woman repairs the family's wood-paneled Ford station wagon, the 40s. During World War II, when most men were at the front, women had to take on traditionally male responsibilities, including repairing complex machinery. Fleetwood Mac vocalist Stevie Nicks demonstrates her flexibility backstage in 1978. This photograph was taken during the recording of the album Rumors, when internal conflicts within the band reached their peak but also led to the creation of their greatest masterpiece. The son of the German ambassador, Rudolf von Ribbentrop, in the uniform of a Westminster school student in London, 1936. According to his classmates' recollections, he was no different from them, except for the badge of the Nazi youth organization on his jacket lapel. President Richard Nixon bowls in a special alley built directly under the White House. He was an avid player and often used bowling as a way to relieve stress at the height of the Watergate scandal, which ultimately led to his resignation. Children storm a sweet shop on the day candy rationing was lifted, 1953. After nearly 11 years of strict restrictions imposed during the war, this day became a real celebration for a whole generation of Britons. Archaeologist Howard Carter and his team have lunch in the tomb of Ramesses the Hik, 1923. They used this chamber as a dining room and laboratory during the painstaking work of clearing the neighboring tomb of Tutankhamun, an American Chevrolet convertible from the early 50s, captured in color on Kodachrome film. This is not just a drive, but a symbol of post-war optimism and freedom, when having your own car opened up the whole country to ordinary guys. The Titanic casts off from the dock in Southampton on April 10, 1912. 4 days later, this masterpiece of engineering, considered unsinkable, would collide with an iceberg and take more than 1,500 lives with it. One of the first Coca-Cola delivery trucks, 1909. The vehicle, with solid rubber tires and a chain drive, was slow and unreliable, but it was the one that started the company's global distribution network. David Bowie in his Paris apartment, 1977. This photograph was taken during the Berlin period of his career, when he moved away from glam rock and created his most avant-garde and influential albums. Frauenkirche in Dresden, ruins in 1958, and the restored view in 2014. The monument to Martin Luther survived the bombing, becoming a symbol of hope, and the church itself was rebuilt from the ruins only after the reunification of Germany. Soviet scientist Yuri Konorosov, who deciphered the Mayan script with his Siamese cat, Asha, he jokingly called her the co-author of his works, and when editors removed her name from manuscripts, he invariably wrote it back in. Engineers in Romania move a 7,600-ton residential building to make way for a new boulevard 1987. The building was cut in half, and the two parts were moved 55 meters apart, with the residents not even having to move out of their apartments. This is the untouched seal on Tutankhamun's tomb, photographed in 1922. A simple rope and a clay seal guarded the pharaoh's treasures for over 3 millennia until they were discovered by Howard Carter's expedition. A women's motorcycle patrol in Los Angeles with a warning for speeders, 1927. The sign reads, "Go slow and see our city, go fast and see our jail." A young Whoopi Goldberg, a 1984 photo. The year before, she had become famous for her one-woman show, in which she played several roles by herself, and it was this work that caught the attention of Steven Spielberg. Singer Stevie Nicks on stage during The Other Side of the Mirror tour, 1989. During this period, she was at the peak of her solo career, and her mystical image and unique voice made her one of the most influential women in rock history. Spring break in Southern California, 1947. Tens of thousands of young people flocked to the beaches, where they sunbathed and danced during the day, and lit bonfires at night to the sound of portable radios, making up for lost time from the war years. The presentation of a vibrating bra in Brussels, 1971. The creators of this strange device claimed it was designed to develop and firm the bust, and suggested wearing it right at work. Suffragettes at a demonstration in New York with a sign that reads, "I want my mother to be able to vote," circa 1913. Involving children in such actions was an effective way to show that the fight for suffrage was a fight for the future of the next generations. Italian leader Benito Mussolini holds a lion cub named Italia. This predator was his personal pet and lived right in his Roman residence, serving as another tool to create the image of a strong and powerful ruler. The Great Wall of China before the start of large-scale restoration work, a 1907 photo. In this picture, it looks not like a tourist attraction, but like an ancient, semi-ruined structure lost among wild mountains. A young Harrison Ford as Colonel Lucas in the 1979 film Apocalypse Now. It was a small role, but it became a turning point in his career. It was on this set that George Lucas noticed him and invited him to audition for Star Wars, the assembly line for Pontiac Firebird cars in the late 60s. This was the golden age of American muscle cars, when workers manually combined powerful 8-cylinder engines with iconic bodies, creating automotive legends. Actor Kirk Douglas on a water taxi in Venice, 1953. He had arrived at the film festival for the screening of the movie The Bad and the Beautiful, and this beard was part of his look for his next picture, Ulysses. Archaeologist Howard Carter examines a gilded chariot from Tutankhamun's tomb in 1923. This colorized photograph was taken on the day the artifacts were first brought into the sunlight, after being in darkness for more than 3,000 years. British officer Thomas Edward Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, on a camel in 1916. He was a key figure in organizing the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire, and became one of the creators of modern guerrilla warfare. A public urinal on the streets of Paris, a photograph from 1875. These cast iron structures, called Vespasienne, were an integral part of the urban landscape until they were finally dismantled in the 1960s. Actress Natalie Wood in her home in 1963. Despite her seemingly carefree appearance, this was a difficult period in her life. She had just divorced Robert Wagner and was trying to reshape her career, transitioning from teenage roles to serious dramatic characters. 20-year-old Dolly Parton in a recording studio, 1966. The year before, she had signed her first major contract, not yet suspecting that she would become one of the most successful and influential performers in the history of country music. Women in a London salon paint their legs to simulate stockings, 1941. During the war, nylon was a strategic material used for parachute production, so fashionistas had to resort to such tricks, even drawing the back seam